The next case is 44 of 2023, 1001 Shirley Street, Shirley Church LLC. A request to redevelop the old Holy Rosary Church into townhouses. Sitting on this will be myself, Mr. Young, Mr. Wright, Mr. Chapdelaine, and Mr. Chadina. Mr. Stern, who lives in the neighborhood, has recused himself, so he will not be sitting on this matter. So with that, I open it up to the applicant. Tell us why you're here.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Rebecca Edmondson-Corum. I represent the people that own and are developing the former Holy Rosary Church down on Point Shirley. I'd like to introduce them. This is Phil Buccieri, and this is Barbara Angela. And then we also have our professional engineer over here, Rick Salvo, and over on my left is Peter Pittman, who is our architect. If I do have the slide, if you would like to give me sharing responsibility, I can put this up. I'm already on.
You should be able to share your screen if you're on the meeting.
So Holy Rosary was originally constructed in 1952. It was utilized most recently up until 2020, 2021. The Archdiocese of Boston did put this up for sale, and my clients bought it in April of this past year in 2023. What they are proposing is, so this is both a new and old plot plan that I'm showing here on the screen. My clients are proposing to take off a part of the building right here, that is where there's concrete stuff. If you're looking straight onto the building, on the left-hand side, there are some crumbling concrete steps, and we called it the addition. I think the addition was done in the 70s, perhaps. That addition is going to come off. And then we are going to keep the original footprint in the 1952 church, and they're proposing 5 townhouse structures within the original footprint. By knocking off the addition, it will create parking on one side and the other. So we are parking compliant for 5 townhouse spaces. Mr. Pittman is also going to put up his boards so everybody in the room can see an overlay. He also has color of the original the parking and where the building will stand. At the moment, we do have 10 parking spaces. There will be 6 on the front, 7 on the front, and
3 in the driveway.
3 in the driveway.
Can I make a suggestion just on the boards, and I know this will be harder for the presenter. It might be better if you stand back here so everybody can see, so there's not people behind you.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to move to the schematics
Better, thank you.
as well. So at the moment, I just want to say that my clients have taken on to great lengths to make sure to maintain the integrity of the church itself. We know it was a vital part of many generations. Myself, I went to theology school before I went to law school, so it's been a personal pleasure to work on this project myself, kind of bringing my 2 worlds together. So this is the first floor. This is, of course, the pews. We did do a pew giveaway here in Winthrop, and you gave how many away? Almost all of them.
46.
Okay, 46. So anybody who wanted one could get one for free. And now we have demoed the inside. This is the choir loft over to the left-hand side in the addition as well. Choir loft is still intact. There's still some choir books up there. So this is the current existing look, if you look straight on, of the church. And then we are going to modify. And here is the 5 townhouses that they are proposing. I'm going to turn it over to my developer and to my builder to just kind of give a description of how everything's going to be laid out.
Turn it over to Peter.
Turn it over to Peter.
Good evening. So we have 5 units, as Dee Dee pointed out. The first 3 units going from left to right, or about 1,600 square feet each. The last two units are a little bit closer to 1,800 square feet. They are 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units. The first floor, which Dee Dee, if you could back up one page.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
First floor should be on there.
Sir? Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
As you can see, the first floor is an open concept. We're creating a common hall inside the footprint of the building that will access each of the units. We do have a stair to each of the 2 parking areas at either end of the building. And then inside the units, there'll be a half bath on the first floor, a large kitchen, dining area, living room, separate seating area. And it's pretty consistent across the board. The 2 larger units just get that extra little seating or office area. Each unit has its internal stair up to the second floor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
My
all right.
apologies. I was trying to get the better one's accent this afternoon, but here we go.
That's all right, this is good, and as you can see, we have 2 bedrooms, one facing the hill, one facing the water. The one facing the water is the primary bedroom, and each of the primaries have a balcony. As Dee Dee pointed out, there are no additions that we're adding to this building, no additional square footage. This is all within the footprint of the original building. As Dee Dee pointed out, we're removing some of the later extremities. The balconies, which you'll see in a moment, are actually recessed in on the first 3. And the last one is a flat roof. So at this point, I'd probably direct you to these renderings. Might give you a little bit better imagery. This will give you a before and after. This is taken right on the corner of Shirley. So this is the existing church. This is the later vestibule addition that we're removing. And then this is the proposed new elevation of the church. We're maintaining the existing window openings in the main part of the building. We are raising up level to this fascia soffit gutter line, this lower portion of the building here, in order to give that unit a better deck area. From the back, this is the hillside, so if you were from the back corner of the parking lot, this is looking down the back elevation of the building. And up here, Dee Dee's got the big pictures. So, Dee Dee, could you scroll back a second?
Yes, sir.
So there's the front elevation as it appears. And then, again, the same gable end and the rear elevation.
That's Shirley Street, right? That's Shirley Street.
Yes. Yes, sir?
This area is all coming down, this hill area?
That's
in the rear.
No,
There's a retaining wall.
I'll let you take that.
Yeah, so there's a small retaining wall that'll support that rear slope, create that patio area that you see behind the building.
Here's kind of the before and after shots.
So the red on the side, the redder part is what's coming off to create the parking. There you go.
Yes. And the white stairs in the front.
In the white stairs, yep, in the front. So then that's creating the parking lot on the side.
The lot will, we are working with a professional landscape architect to make sure we have the appropriate indigenous plantings consistent with this development.
So this is new construction?
That's all new construction. So if you scroll up a little bit, PD,
We're gonna save our questions as
sorry.
board members for.
so right there, you can see the before and after.
Overall height doesn't change.
The height is 30 feet as well, just a. So the only things, thank you very much, Peter. Is there any,
Here for
Mr.
your leisure.
I know we also have our expert architect, civil engineer, as well as it is within a in the floodplain. And I know that you have a small saying about that as well. I know it, part of the retaining wall.
Sure, very small portion in the front of the site, delineated by this sign here, it's located in the 100-year floodplain, so this is in the floodplain. All of this is outside of the floodplain. We'll be proposing a pervious paver patio in the back, which will mitigate stormwater runoff that comes off the back of the hillside. We'll also be infiltrating the roof runoff from this church, which is a significant improvement that doesn't exist in the current condition today. That's about 5,800 square feet of impervious watershed area that's going straight up to the street that will be directed down into the ground. So that will result in a net decrease in both rate of stormwater runoff and volume of stormwater runoff. It should be a pretty significant improvement. So we'll have to go make some form of a filing with the Conservation Commission just for the small amount of work that's in that
And just a,
100-year floodplain. It'll either be an RDA or a full notice of intent. We're waiting for them to tell us once this process concludes.
Thank you.
And regardless of the floodplain, there's no occupiable square footage under the lower level of the building. It's merely just storage area.
Okay. Thank you.
so there are only two things that we have proposed this plan. We went to site plan review. I do have, if just in case you do not have a copy of the site plan review or the denial letter or anything else, I do have copies of all of that as well. The only thing that we're seeking tonight, one, is a special permit for the alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming. If we go into the land use table here, you can see that the non-conforming issues are, one is the front yard setback and the other is the rear yard setback, but that would fall, it would be continuing that pre-existing non-conforming because we're staying in the same footprint. And additionally, since this was a Catholic church, it is zoned as a Catholic church. We are looking for a use variance from section 17.52.03, the use variance table, from designated as a holy building or a church to what is a multifamily dwelling. The zoning table that we're using here, it was zoned, it was put together in the early 1950s, so it falls under the zoning table for the 5,000 square feet so that is why it is there as well. The other reason major reason why also a use variance is very needed in this point is that one of the things that is prohibited, we have a deed. I don't know if you have the deed with you. I do have copies of it. The deed is a very restrictive deed. It was a condition of the sale of the Archdiocese that there are things that this cannot be, and it can no longer be a house of worship as well. It can no longer be many things. I'm not going to get into politics, but there are many things in the deed. So we think this is the best and highest use of reuse of the building, and that is why we're also requesting the use variance as well. Oh, and just to throw it out there as well, it was an exempt building for tax purposes. It is now a taxable building within the city for the first time and since its existence probably, or at least in 70 years.
Thank you. Anything further before we open it up to questions and comments from the public?
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So with that, I'll open it up to questions and comments from members of the public on 1001 Shirley Street. Yes, sir. We'll go here and then here.
My name's Tom Dedarian. I live in the house that you can see in the picture, right next to the church. And when the church closed, my first thought was, well, we could buy the church and extend our vegetable garden. But Cynthia told me that would result in $2,000 tomatoes. Second thought was maybe the entire Point Shirley could chip in and create the Holy Rosary Park. But that didn't happen. And my third thought was, what if nothing happens? The building would begin to fall to pieces. And I would be having my morning coffee watching parts fall off. That would be a tragedy for the whole town and an expense. And that would, of course, have no tax revenue for the town. So I'm delighted to see what is being proposed. And I'm happy to have these new neighbors. I'm delighted with this. I've looked at the plans. I've remodeled houses in New Hampshire, Oregon, Western Mass, and several in Winthrop. And I know from talking with Phil that there is expertise here, and this will be done right and properly, and I'm totally delighted with it. I will miss the $2,000 tomatoes.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, Attorney
Good
Donahue.
evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Sean Donahue. I'm speaking here this evening as a resident of Point Shirley. I live on 18 Hale Avenue, not too far from the church. I was born and raised in Point Shirley. It's an area that's near and dear to me. And coincidentally, I too have a religious background, having graduated from St. Anselm College in New Hampshire, where I studied theology and other courses. So I just wanted to put myself on the same plane as my counterpart here. In any event, first of all, and I don't mean to sound chintzy by any means, but procedurally speaking, the notices that went out in this matter said nothing whatsoever about a variance. It did mention a permit, and a permit only, and I sent an email to the board this evening expressing my concerns about that. As you know, Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 10 and 11 require that the board publish notices by way of a newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks prior to the hearing, which 2 notices were published in consecutive weeks. My concern is with the substance of those notices. Again, it just mentions that there was the applicant was seeking a permit. No mention whatsoever about a variance, let alone a use variance. And in Section 11 of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, it specifically states that a notice must state the subject matter of the hearing and the nature of the action or relief requested, if any. So there was a mention of a permit being sought here, but no mention whatsoever about a variance. I think that's wrong. As a resident of the community, and I say this in all due respect, you're volunteering your time here. You work hard. I spent years on the board myself, so I understand. But I do believe procedural requirements are necessary for a number of purposes. First and foremost is openness and transparency, so that the community knows what's going on in this room this evening. Whether they show up or not, they know what's going on in this room. And that hasn't been done. Nonetheless, the proposed use here, residential use, I agree. I think it's probably the most appropriate use for that building. And I applaud the applicants for making a proposal to keep the existing building instead of demoing it and coming up with something new. I applaud them for coming up with a proposal for the residential use. However, I refuse to applaud them with respect to the density that they're proposing, especially within the quaint confines of the Point Shirley area. As you know, this is an area that's overburdened by the demands of Mass Water Resource Treatment Plant. They have huge 18-wheel trucks carrying all types of flammable substance through the Point Shirley area a few times a week. By people who visit the Deer Island State Park and in doing so park their vehicles throughout the Point Shirley area. By people who visit the Point Shirley Beach during in-season, and they too park their vehicles throughout the Point Shirley area. By emergency apparatus that barrels down the Shirley Street and Taft Ave roadways when responding to situations on the Mass Water Resource property. and so forth and so on. There are a number of demands in this area. So by opening the door for this type of development, I think is going to perpetuate more development like this in this area. The beach area, whether it's Winthrop Beach or Point Shirley Beach, is prime for development by developers who, as you saw on Revere Beach, have come up with some huge buildings. Now, I don't necessarily think we may see those huge buildings here, but, you know, proposing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or more units in this area is doing no service whatsoever to the Point Shirley area, none. Point Shirley area was built out and developed, I think, somewhere in the 1950s when cottages were built. It was built for seasonal use, and over the years has become more of a year-round place for people to live. But the roadways are small, the parking is awful. I think that if, you know, I would suggest that in asking for a use variance, first of all, there needs to be hardship. What is the hardship? That they want more profit? I would assume that's the hardship, that, you know, but it's coming at the expense of the residents in the Point Shirley area. And therein, a line needs to be drawn, because the quality of life of the residents in the Point Shirley area, to me, is critically important. As a resident of that area, and, you know, as it stands to my neighbors, how it impacts them, that's important to me. So I'm asking that you deny this proposal. I also want to mention too that there was recent information being circulated that the MBTA has expressed the possibility of eliminating bus service in the Point Shirley area, which would only require the residents in the Point Shirley area to have transportation, cars. The parking plans that were presented in this matter, I haven't seen any dimensions presented concerning each of the off-street parking spaces. What is the width of each space? What is the depth of each space? Our town bylaws require 9-foot widths for each space. Our town bylaws require a depth of 19 feet for angled parking and 22 feet for parallel parking. What's being proposed is that angle or parallel parking. The significance being, should that depth of each of each parking, off-street parking space be 19 feet or 22 feet? Haven't seen any dimensions on the plans. Maybe there were new plans that were presented, but from the plans that were originally filed in this, I haven't seen any. Steering radius, they're proposing a 7-car parking lot on site. With one of those spots, well, some of those spots are tightly squeezed in, or so it seems, in the back end of the lot, near that cement wall that has been discussed here. What is the steering radius? Is this an area where people can turn back out of that parking space up by the rear wall, back out, turn around and leave? Or are they going to be, are they gonna have to back out of the driveway, but back out of the parking lot onto the roadway? Are commercial vehicles going to be allowed in these parking spaces? Why? Well, there's a whole different calculation on off-street parking spaces with respect to commercial parking, or commercial vehicles being parked in the space. So, again, what is the hardship? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Donahue. Anyone else like to be heard on this matter? Yes.
I'm Amy Fothergill. I live at 1016 directly across from the church. Overall, I like the building. I'll go with my new renovated outside house with the batten board, so I'm enthusiastic with the look of it. But I have a lot of, I'll say, same issues as him with the parking. more so the safety with the chemicals, the bicyclists that go to Deer Island all the time, the little kids that run around. I also will say I've lived there for a long time, and I've never really seen consistently someone park in that driveway, and I think it's because of line of sight. So that's something to consider, but we have tons of bicyclists, and then in the summer, same thing, parking is always an issue. And my fear is the same thing I saw in the, I had to phone a friend for some of these things, but those measurements I didn't see on the plans at all for the parking. And we know there's a lot of SUVs and stuff, so if people don't park in those or park on the street, it's gonna be an issue. Also, Paul McGee, you are the coordinator of the PSA, we have a lot of functions there. People want parking for kids' birthday parties and things like that, there's people crossing the street constantly. So it's just something we have to think about here, and maybe try to find a way to kind of meet in the middle, because that is a huge concern, and trust me, I sit on my front stairs, I'm always out there in the summer. Great place to be, and I will tell you that we still have out-of-towners that summer here. I always see the Arlington folks in the small houses when I go to the beach, so it's something to consider.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll go here, oh, sorry, here and then there. Sorry. Yes, sir.
My name's Jack Dempsey, live at 1091 Shirley Street. It's a great looking plan, but we need to move it. So there's 5 units. It's, the whole point is made up of 1 and 2 family homes, mostly single family. I can tell you from rumblings around the neighborhood, know some people some developers, some people that own more than 1 property, just waiting for you to open this can of worms, and they're gonna, when this is gonna be 1 building, gonna end up being 10 buildings like this down the point. You're gonna cause us a big injustice by allowing this. And I like the plan, don't get me wrong, it looks great, but it's not in the right place for this size. It's gonna add a lot of traffic. I think it's gonna open a can of worms that we're not gonna be able to close. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing to my statement? Because
Sure.
you brought it up, the water, how it's gonna feed into the street. I should note that when we have, or you said you're gonna have, and it will drain into the drainage, because when we get bad high tides, all the streets, the water comes down the street, and it comes right in front of my house. Today, knock on wood, I've never had flooding, but if we're putting more water in there, it's gonna elevate if you're draining water. So maybe that's not, I'm not an expert,
Yeah, we're not,
but we just need to
can't, so
think of
we'll
that.
wait, you can answer that after public
Sorry.
comment. No problem at all.
But, yeah, so that's just, I don't want anything to affect the water that we already get besides global warming, so, you know.
Hi, my name is Kathy Pelicelli, born and raised Point Shirley girl. I remember when 90% of the houses on the beach boarded up for the winter. This is a coastal community built for part-time use. Most of the houses were cottages, and they're converted to, like someone said, single family, some 2-family homes. There's 1 road, that's it. And there's nothing we can do about that. And we have ocean storms, and we get cut off and we turn into an island. We're a small community. This plan is beautiful. You have to do something with the church. That's not my argument. I think that the amount of units that you're looking to put in is a bit much. I would like to see, I grew up with Surfsides and Pulsifers, you know, Surfside. So I would like to see a little community store there, you know, where I could send my kids to go get milk, or here's $1, go get an ice cream. You know, because I can see this building from my house, I'm right behind it. You know, maybe less units and something like that for the community, for Point Shirley. There's also a school bus stop there, and that's a concern of mine. Because when the school bus stops, people go by the bus. They shouldn't, but they do. And it happens all the time. And parents are out there yelling, going, hey, what are you doing? And nobody cares. MWRA's gotta go to work, right? you know, people gotta make their deliveries. How is this gonna impact the delivery trucks? Amazon, UPS, DoorDash on our one road. That is not built to handle that kind of traffic. The infrastructure isn't there. So maybe 3 units in a convenience store. That way, something is done with the building. You know, there's room for parking for everybody on the 9 proposed spots with whatever dimensions that you're gonna be in code with. And, you know, the kids can have a little corner store, something like that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard on this matter?
Yeah.
I'll go here, and then here, and then here. Sorry, I didn't see it out of the corner of my eye. And here, and here. Go, I'll try to keep it.
140 Taft Avenue.
Okay.
And if I may approach the bench, I'd like to submit.
Not a bench, but it's not a bench, but you can approach. Never want to be accused of being a judge.
Long night, I'm not gonna belabor. If I may, I'd just like to echo everything that Mr. Donahue said and adopt it as my own testimony, and just add on to a little bit, instead of what the notice. I went down to the town hall last week and talked specifically to the, I guess it's the clerk of this board, and I asked specifically, what is the issue? She says it's a special permit. Says, you sure you're not going for variance? She says, no, they're not going for variance, special permit only. So, because I knew I was gonna go do some research, I went to the library and did all my research. I was in there 8 hours yesterday, 5, 6 hours today typing this up. And it didn't say anything about variances because I had no notice. And I'm sure you all know, you've heard due process. The fundamental thing in due process is issue. You have to know what the issue is before the hearing. So everybody here has been deprived of due process because nobody knew there was a variance here. There wasn't a notice of the variance. So, you know, everything's in my brief. I'm not gonna say anything more. I just would ask you to deny the application.
Great, thank you very much. So back here, then here, and then up front. So, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
my name is John Bentley, I live on Surfside. As Mr. Donahue said, there's very, very few parking spaces down the point. And come summertime, I've seen lots of Uber cars just dropping people off, because there are no more parking spaces. I come home sometimes and I can't find a parking space. And so are some of the other neighbors, they find themselves in the same position. Now, if there are, I didn't see 10 parking spaces on the renditions. They just show a few cars, and there was nothing on the plot plans showing 10 spots. Now, if you get 10 spots, each car could possibly have a visitor's pass. That's 10 more cars to impact the parking that we don't have. So, take it from there. Do you want to let these people do this? Or do you want to have them rearrange their plans?
Thank you. Yes, sir, and then I'll go here. So whichever order you want to go in, I'll leave it to you two. Yes, sir.
My turn? Yeah, hi. Paul McGee, I live at 29 Hale Ave. Grew up down Point Shirley, been there most of my life. I am not intrinsically opposed to the project, I'm opposed to the volume of it. I heard some things tonight which did surprise me. In terms of notifications, I did get an email, just to clarify this too, I also represent the Point Shirley Association. I'm a board member, and Point Shirley Association is recognized as an abutter to the property. Parking is an issue for me too. You know, even if they have the, correct amount of spaces that's required, it looks like they're gonna be paving over all the grassy area. The other day, I was walking by and we had like 2 days of rain, and I was looking at the lawn in front of the church and it was saturated. And what does that mean? That, the water had nowhere else to go because the ground, it hasn't frozen yet, so it was saturated. So that grassland absorbed all that water. My concern is that water is gonna run off into the square. And a lot of times when we have too much water, be it snow or be it rain, it overloads the sewer system. I've been down the point where the volume of water and rain, or even storm water coming over the ocean which no one's talking about that, is literally flooded 3 or 4 feet of Shirley Street, which you could not get out till the tide goes down. I was curious, I couldn't really see the numbers, the dimension in terms of where the property line is in the back of the church. I know that you were building a, is it walkway?
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't sure because I actually grew up in 34 Hale Ave, which is directly behind the church, and I know that property line actually extended down within, not that far away from the border of the church. I don't know the exact dimensions. So I know that that was mostly still owned by 34, at least unless they had sold the property to you or something, but you're still using the existing property line, unless they had sold a piece of it to extend the back. It looked farther than, I imagine, but I know at one time, when we were kids, we always were supposed to be careful because the original builder of 34, 32, and 1020, Barafaldi in the 30s, to mark the property lines, he had, I guess they did it back then, they used the big boards with the rebars in them, so we always were careful of that so we didn't impale ourselves. So I know there's not a lot of land back there that is owned by the church. That isn't necessarily relevant to the project, but I also have a concern about parking. If they pave over a lot of that, even if they have a drainage system, I don't think it's gonna be, perfect, and it still could be, flooding could be an issue, regards to that. Again, I'm not, as a lifelong Point Shirley person and as a representation of the abutter Point Shirley Association, I'm not, opposed to the project. I think the volume of it might be a little too much. I can see where people pull in tight spaces and they're just not gonna bother, they're just gonna park in the street. And, if you look at over the years, there's more cars. I mean, families, when I was a kid, I'm in my 60s, usually there was one car per family. Now everybody has a car. And even down the point, I've seen the changes where my house up on the hill, we have one space. So there's 2 of us, so a lot of times even I have a difficult time finding a space. When I rented property down the point, it's gone to the point where, the thing where, especially in the summertime, where a lot of people would come down to use the beaches, there's no place to park, even if you live down there. So, as Kathy and some other people are alluding to, Shirley Street's one of the busiest streets in Winthrop, especially because it is the only road that goes down to Deer Island. During the day, 24/7, depends on the shift, you could have hundreds of cars. You have chlorine trucks, chemical trucks, construction trucks, all kinds of large vehicles which are going down there. And it's one of the busiest streets, and that's kind of a nexus point where they come down and they bear left to Taft and down to Deer Island. So again, I like the look of the project. I still have questions in regards to parking and drainage and the sheer volume of cars. And again, I can see them parking on the street if they get tight quarters. Not to be picky, but the church was actually built in 1950. Because my parents were married in 1950. All right.
Thank you.
Pulled the jacket from the building department. That's it.
So here and here, you guys, dealer's choice.
We already talked about it, she said it.
All right, there you go.
Dee Caboose, I am at 202 Grandview, which is up at the end of Otis, so I have to go by the church to get home. And my biggest, I have questions and then I have comments. So maybe I should ask my questions that some of you might be able to answer, otherwise the developer may have to answer.
Yeah, and we'll
some.
take note of the questions and answer them after public comment. So.
Perfect. So I believe this is zoning A, and I'm not that familiar with residential A zoning to what they're allowed to build multifamily, but is it restricted with the number of units that are allowed? Is it 2? Okay. Someone answered B with 2. So if it's residential A and they're proposing 5, well, that would be, an ask, an exception. I thought it was just an exception to parking, but now I'm realizing that this is an exception also to the amount that they're allowed to build. So here's a concern. You're putting in 5 units, the density is, just the population on that one corner. You're on a corner. So all the traffic that comes around, we're talking about a minimum of 10 cars that you think you're fitting in this parking lot that are gonna be backing in and out of this parking lot on a blind corner. There's a crosswalk right there. I don't know if that's being moved. I don't know if that retaining wall gives any visibility, because that's a high wall on that side. I don't know what the property looks like on the other side. But to me, a curve with that much traffic, that's a safety concern right there, especially like people have said, with the tankers that go down there, with the volume that goes down there. I mean, there's some major concern. And then when you start thinking about the amount of cars, if it's hard for them to park on that lot, or they have guests, where are they going to be? There's no parking on that side of the street. There's only a few spots across the street, and there's houses already there that use them. So where are they gonna park? Further down on the streets and affect the residents on Pebble, affect the people around the corner? I can't remember the name of the street that goes around the corner, my apologies.
Elliot.
Thank you. So the volume that you're gonna be putting in here is really gonna be damaging to the neighborhood, the residents that are already there, the safety of the school buses, the traffic, the pedestrians. I'd like to understand, like Sean had pointed out, there's no dimensions. I wanna know if that is really going to fit, or if we're just squeezing them in for the sake of squeezing them in. I'm also curious about open space. I don't know if that's a conservation question, but you're paving over all this land with tar and concrete, pathway in the back. Runoff is going to be an additional issue, in my opinion. But I wanna know if there is an open space percentage that you're supposed to adhere to, and is that also being asked to be of the leaf of? Because I don't see a lot of green space based on the square footage of that property. I also wanna know the size of the opening of your driveway, especially with the volume of the cars having to pass on the right, if that's indeed going to be wide enough for them to get around. And I definitely hate the Uber drivers that park in the middle of the street. Uber drivers, DoorDash, UPS trucks, everybody, that's a narrow street. You're gonna have 5 units, they're all gonna be parking right there to make deliveries. There's no place for them to pull over. So that's gonna become a traffic nightmare with the volume that comes around here. And I know there was one more point that somebody had said that I can't remember, so if I think of it by the end, but I think that's plenty for me.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Leslie Poto. I live at 835 Shirley, and I'm just basically not gonna say everything all over again. Y'all have heard it 1,000 times, but it's the traffic, it's the position of these spaces for the cars to go in and out, and just the pure volume of people going into our little one road out there. I have young children that play all the time. Of course, but it's just increasing that. And then, like this gentleman said, opening up a can of worms for all the other places that want to now build 3 people, 4 people, 5, family units. It's concerning for our little community. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard on this matter?
We have some hands online too.
All right,
Could
so
we adjust the temperature, Mr. Chair? I apologize. Is there a way
So,
to-
could you just open that door a bit?
I'm sorry, but,
Great air conditioning outside.
That says 80 degrees.
Yeah, it says 80 on it.
That's the fan. It's
Okay.
blowing. The heat's not on.
Thank you, sorry.
all right, so I'm gonna go here and then we'll go to hands online. So, yes, ma'am.
I agree with what has been said here. One more issue that bothers me even now, before we bring more development down the point, is safety issue of getting in and out, which I know has been mentioned. But I keep asking for a safety plan for us to even get out of the point should we have flood, plane crash, and the MWRA, the chemical buses, the trucks, the original, of course, was not supposed to be brought in through town, the original plan, but now they're not even accompanied by the police, which they should be. one of the trucks actually drove up a one-way because he couldn't fit around that corner, right where this would be. I do think the plan is wonderful. I'm really glad that the church, the building is still gonna be established there, but it's just too congested to have that many units, that many cars. Because you can say 2 units, two cars to every unit, but that doesn't mean 2 people living in condos or, brings in like, I'm repeating what some of the people said, but it's a real safety issue in that area. It's a safety issue just to cross that crosswalk. The cars fly. So I just think safety is a huge issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we had some questions online, and then I'll go here. So, because I saw some hands here first, so.
Rich?
Hi there, this is Carmen Rich. I live down on 39 Triton Avenue. I don't want to be an echo chamber here. Mr. Donahue, you hit the nail on the head with a number of the comments you made, but one thing I think is worth bringing up, it's, we just kind of sat here listening to another issue that was further down on Shirley Street regarding, the line of sight for pulling out of that driveway, and I'm just looking at what's on the screen right here, and, a lot of the folks probably in the room are aware, there's cars that park across the street near that, rec hall across from the church. And so cars that are coming down Shirley Street, towards Triton, where I would be coming to and from that way, it's really like a one-lane road, right? So people are, kind of going by there. And right where this retaining wall is in the parking lot in the picture you have here, there's shrubbery that actually overhangs over the sidewalk. Like, I walk my dog every day and I can't even walk on that side of the street because there's so much, overgrowth on that retaining wall as is. So I'm just curious why this is not also a safety issue with regard to that retaining wall that would be blocking the line of sight of those cars coming in and out, and those cars that would be driving by this driveway where it looks like 6 or 7 parking spaces are being proposed. Everything else, it sounds like everyone else kind of touched on. I just wanted to kind of bring that up. Thanks.
Thank you. Who else? Any other hands?
Any other hands, or if you just want to unmute yourself?
Yes, this is owner Rosary at 16 Hale. I think that 5 units actually fit quite nicely based on what I've seen in that building. And I know about the slippery slope argument, but this is an existing building, and I would hope that we have enough sort of subtlety in our understanding that we can see that this is a little bit different than a brand new project coming in and building a very large building that never existed. I would actually, this is obviously my opinion, and I'm a person who gets by without a car, but so part of me would like to see actually fewer cars than required by zoning, on site, which I know doesn't necessarily match other people's ideas of reducing on-street parking, but I think it helps discourage people from owning more cars. So if you had 1 or 1.5 cars per unit, then you might also have less paving on the site and have more green space. And then finally, I would like to make sure that I'd like to understand how trash is being taken care of. I'd just like it not to be placed in a spot that's very visible from the street, and that it's secured and kept in a clean and safe place.
Thank you. Okay, any other hands online? No?
No.
All right, so I saw a hand back here.
Yeah, my name is Cynthia Hastings. I live at 997 Shirley Street, which is right next to the church. I am heartily in favor of this plan. I'm in favor of all 5 units. They fit nicely, the design is good. I like what Honor said about fewer cars would be nice. Maybe not everybody needs a car. Anyway, I think we're talking about 5 units, probably maximum of 15 people, new people to the point. Probably only 10. We're not talking about a lot more people in our neighborhood.
All right, hang on one second. We're having one conversation in the room, and I keep hearing conversation in the gallery, and if you can't not talk, I'll ask you to leave. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm easily distracted, so please, just the person speaking. Sorry, ma'am.
I forget where I was, except that I like the plan.
Sorry.
And I'm not so concerned about the traffic. As I said, we're next door. We back out of our driveway very carefully every day. Yeah, we have to be careful. There's some traffic. But I don't see that the cars are a problem. The other thing I'd like to say is Phil and Barbara have been so generous with our neighborhood already. They gave away all those pews. They've been very generous with the information that they provided. They had an open house at the church to explain everything and show us all the plans. They want to please the neighbors. I do believe that. They want to do what's good for the neighborhood and what's good for the existing building. And I think 5 units is, I'm sure they've done the arithmetic and decided that 5 units is what works best for all the numbers. If they could get away with 3 units, they probably would, but they probably can't get away with 3 units, so 5 units. I hope to approve the plan. I think it's a good one.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard on this matter?
I have another question.
Yep.
So on the plan, one thing that I did not notice, well, I didn't notice, somebody else noticed it next to me. The number of doors on the building, it looked like there was only doors in the back, and on the rendering, I thought they verbally said 2 doors in the back. The rendering, it looked like there was only 1 door in the back, but there was none in the front. So what about the fire exits? Like, does every unit have 2 exits? If 1 door is for this half and 1 door, I don't know how that's set up. So that's definitely a concern, especially if they're all exiting out the back. There's not enough space for safety to get away from the building. So that's something of concern. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out was, as much as everybody would like to think that, yeah, in a city, a development can build near a train station and people can get away with 1 car per unit, we can't walk to a train station. They're cutting back our bus. Ferry doesn't work in the winter. So we are not a commuting town. We have to assume every unit's gonna have at least 2 cars. And if it's a 2-bedroom, let's assume that's a husband, wife, and what if it's a teenager? That's 3 cars. Where is that 3rd car gonna park? We can't assume just because it's a 2-bedroom, they're gonna move in there and only have 2 cars. I and my husband own 3 cars. I mean, it's quite possible that there's gonna be even more cars parked on the street than we even think. Okay, sorry, that's it.
Thank you. 3rd and final call. Oh,
One
we did
email.
have, oh, sorry. Yeah, before we do that, we did have one. You guys are gonna have to listen to my voice, I apologize. We did get one communication in that I will read into the record. This is from, I'm sorry, Brian, if you're listening, Martinkowitz. I think I got that right, hopefully. It says, he's at 129 The Strand, Winthrop. Board of Appeal, to the Board of Appeals of the Town of Winthrop, 1 Metcalf Square, Winthrop, Mass. 02512. Subject: support for the condo development of the Holy Rosary Church. Dear members of the Winthrop Board of Appeals, as a resident of Winthrop residing at 129 The Strand, I am writing to express my support for the proposed condominium development at the site of the Holy Rosary Church. I recently attended a meeting at the...
Don't even know who that is. I got it.
Am I on like a 7-second delay or something? I mean, they must know me. Meeting of the Shirley Point Association to understand community concerns better. While I share these concerns, I respectfully disagree that they should be a deterrent to the development's progression. The developer's willingness to work with and address community concerns where reasonableness is commendable. That's just what it says. Their approach demonstrates a commitment not only to the development, but also to the well-being and satisfaction of the local community, which is a significant factor in my support for this project. This development promises economic growth by attracting motivated and family-oriented individuals. It will inject vibrancy into our community, positively impacting local businesses and the broader economy. Additionally, the thoughtful renovation of the Holy Rosary Church will undoubtedly enhance the entire real estate value of the area, melding historical integrity with modern living. I also commend the developer for including adequate parking solutions in their plans. This consideration shows an understanding of the practical challenges and the needs of future residences in the community. In conclusion, I urge the Board of Appeals to view this project as a positive development for Winthrop. The condominium development of the Holy Rosary Church represents a balanced approach to urban development, combining economic growth, historical preservation, community engagement, and practical urban planning. It holds significant potential for enhancing our community in a sustainable and thoughtful manner. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. Sincerely, Brian Martinkowitz. So that has been read into the record. So with that, I'll do a third and final call for public comment. Yes, sir?
Just want to ask a specific question regarding the parking spaces on the south side of the church where there's 7 parallel spaces. Just want to make sure that if you guys are going to answer the questions, if they're 9 feet, the regulation 9 and 22. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
My name is Jim Montanaro. I'm on the Surfside Ave.
Right, thank you. So with that, yes, sir?
Just one more question. Has this plan been approved by the building department yet?
No, that's why we're here. So the building, just as a point of information, the building department denied their application for a building permit because they had to come to us to get relief. So they have not been, the plans have not been approved subject to us
I
doing
quickly
something.
looking at it, I didn't get to look at it, but I agree. It looked to me that there wasn't 2 means of egress from each unit. And the other issue is whether it's fire department response or ambulance or deliveries, they have to go around the back of the building. That means whatever's gonna be parked out front on the part of the street that doesn't have parking. So that's gonna happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I just comment on Mr. Dempsey's comments to the board?
Sure.
By looking at the floor plan, the first floor plan, it looks as if when you ascend up the stairway into the building, it brings you into apartment number 2. I don't see any means of egress into any other apartments on the front of the building.
We'll get an answer on the ingress and egress. I mean, obviously, anything that gets built here would have to comply with building and fire code, or it's not gonna get a building permit. But that's beyond the purview of this board, but we'll get an answer to the ingress and egress, because I'm curious about that as well. So with that, any other questions or comments from members of the public, third and final call? Seeing no more hands, I'll take a motion to close public comment.
Motion to close public comment.
Do you have a second?
Second.
As moved by Mr. Wright and seconded by Mr. Young. All those in favor of closing public comment? Aye?
Aye.
All right. So there were a number of questions from the public that, I'm not sure if you took them all down or not. I have some of them, but if you want to respond to some that you heard, and if you leave any out, I'm happy to fire them back at you based on
Okay.
what I found, what I
Thank
heard.
you. I'm gonna make it, it's gonna take a village here, to make sure we get all of them done. But as far as the parking goes, we have 10 compliant spots, 9 by 22. There will be 7 in the front, 3 on the side. For Miss Merced as well, this is where the trash will be, in the back, on the side of the,
Sure, can you
so
bring
it will
up,
be away from the street, and it will not be seen.
and they'll be,
That being enclosed.
it'll be enclosed, and you'll have a private contract for pickup, correct? 'Cause
Private.
it's
Private contract.
Roll it down the driveway and this way.
That'll be a dumpster?
Yes,
in an enclosure.
one recycle, one trash.
Thank
So
you.
I'm just gonna go back and just show this on the screen as well to everybody. Here we go. So, this is the area right here for the trash, and all 10 are by 22?
The parallel spots are 9 by 22 on the north side of the plan, as required by the zoning. The 90-degree spots that are on the south side of the plan are 9 by 19. as
9 by
required
19,
by
sorry.
the zoning. And there's plenty of back-out space behind that. We'd be happy to provide you with the auto turn movements that prove that a car can easily back into that large space between them, be able to turn around and drive out. None of these cars will be backing out onto Shirley Street. There's ample room, as you can see there, for a vehicle to be able to back out and turn out onto Shirley Street. And just as a point of information, I think I heard it from the audience, I know the board's probably aware of this, there is no parking relief being sought under this particular application.
Correct.
This application's parking compliant.
So while we're talking about the parking, what's the width of that driveway opening on Shirley?
This one down here?
Yep.
Does it
have it? 24 feet.
24 feet.
24? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I can do this
No,
too.
that's okay.
As required by the zoning code too.
I couldn't squint that hard. so-
Me either, so.
5 is the retaining
There-
wall.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
There is a note on the plan, on the parking. We did submit 2 scale drawings. I apologize for the lack of dimensions, but there is a note under the parking that identifies the 90-degree spaces all as 9 by 19, which is unique to Winthrop. Most municipalities are 9 by 18. Winthrop happens to be 9 by 19. Relative to that retaining wall, we're actually matching the existing grade for probably about the first 10 feet of that retaining wall. There's going to be no more exposed wall than what exists today, so there's no new situation being created that would cause any form of a sight distance issue there.
So just on that retaining wall for a second, is it current, how high is that retaining
There's no
wall?
wall there.
There's a
They're,
slope.
they're all
There's a
talking
slope.
about the neighbor's wall.
Okay.
And the overgrown trees are on the neighbor's property.
Okay.
Which comes right in line, where the dark black line is the property line. That would be the retaining wall that is short. It's not blocking any access to coming in and out of the driveway.
All right, so that's good to know. I just wanted to make sure that as it relates to that driveway, we're not creating a condition where within 5 feet of Shirley Street, we have something that's over 3 feet tall.
And that wall gets submitted as a plan that has to be approved for a building permit.
Correct, that's right. That's
To
part of,
avoid the situation we had prior to us.
that is correct.
So with the water and overflow issue, we have ample drainage going in. Everything on this is pervious. Whether you're saying we have not enough green space, that's false. The front's all green space, that's gonna suck up water. Everything on this is going to retain the water. There's also 2 tanks, one on this driveway that will suck in the water, so it's not going onto Shirley Street. And on the other parking area, on the side, there's another retaining tank underneath that takes in the water. So that's
Just takes all the roof
alleviating all the roof water from coming off. But I'm not creating any more water because actually I'm making the building smaller.
So just a question on that. So you're gonna put cisterns in that catch the roof water?
Yeah, there'll be a Caltech system on each side that will mitigate. There's actually a small increase in impervious surfaces. There's already a driveway that's paved at the top of the plan there. A good portion of the lower parking lot is already paved. There is a green area closer to the road that is gonna go away, but it pales in comparison compared to us taking the roof area out of the equation and infiltrating into the ground and storing it, as well as the increase in pavement. So there'll be an overall net decrease in both the amount of stormwater that leaves the site and the rate that it
Yeah,
leaves the site.
right, because you're preventing, by taking that roof runoff and putting it into an infiltration system that has some hold to it, you're preventing sheeting off into Shirley Street.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. I'm not an engineer, but I've seen enough plans to play one on TV. All right, so that was one of, I think those were the driveway
I know
questions.
that we had had some questions regarding ingress and egress.
Yes.
For the architect.
Yeah, that would be helpful to go through as
To
well.
go over that as well.
Oh, the egress, if you could bring up the first floor plan, please,
Certainly.
Dee Dee.
Give me just a second, sir.
So as you, I'm gonna approach it,
That's
be
fine.
easier for me to point it
Don't
out.
call it a bench and we'll be fine.
So as you can see at the top left-hand side of the screen, there's the first means of egress out of the building. The building requires 2 means of egress. Each unit is only required 1 means of egress. So if you were in any apartment building anywhere in Massachusetts, those apartments have 1 means of egress that go out to a common hallway. At the end of the common hallway are your 2 means of egress. So each unit has its means of egress fully compliant into a common hallway. And then we did make an extra provision for both fire and security inside with another door intermittent in the hallway that would be magnetically controlled to the fire alarm. So that's not a requirement. We're doing it for additional security. In terms of packages, it is anticipated that the UPS truck would come in, park on the parking lot, and you can see we have a large package and mail area in that common area. So they will be able to get in, drop off the packages, turn around, and go back out. So we've addressed both the egress issues, we've addressed the life safety concerns, and we've addressed the package delivery and storage concerns.
Just help me out with this plan for a second,
Sure.
because I'm missing the door swing, the second door swing to the outside that everybody can access. I see the first one,
right.
where that
To the
pad
That's
is.
a vestibule to the right.
Yeah, but where does that enter, where does that
The
exit?
driveway.
That enters into the driveway that
Is it-
has the parallel
Where's
parking
the-
spaces.
And then there's one over here.
Wait, why am I missing a door?
See, the door is inside.
So
Right here?
it's under an overhang, it's recessed into the footprint of the building, so we're not coming out into the parking area.
You're saying over here?
Right up there, that's it.
Yeah.
So that, so
That little
that
indent,
right
that's a
there,
patio.
that's a patio?
Right,
Okay.
underneath the footprint of the building.
Right, so there's an overhang,
That's
right, but
that's the
but
existing
that's just a
building.
weather-protected entry.
It's a
right?
weather-protected entry, but it doesn't go
That-
outside the footprint. We're actually going into the original building to provide that.
So that's already the egress now. There's already a door there.
There's a side door to the driveway where that.
So where's that on the plan, the side door to the driveway?
Is that located over here?
Right here.
Not included?
There's
Somebody
no
have a
door there,
laser?
that's open space. You're walking out.
Feel like I'm not. Let me look at the plan set.
Yeah,
Oh,
it doesn't
there
work
Are you
on the
saying that
screen.
this
It
is
doesn't
an
work on the
exterior door?
screen, they suck it up.
Yes.
Yes.
This wall is not here?
That's not a wall. Those are a couple steps.
Okay.
Hey, Darren,
Yep,
just a quick question. Does everybody have this plan in the submission package that Rachel sent out? Because the plan that I have shows the egress is going out the back.
That's what it is.
You have one egress out the back, one egress out the side.
My question is the plan that is on the screen the same plan that has been submitted to the board?
it's not. What's the plan number? Is this A 1.1? What is this?
Page 1.1, dated 8/15/2023, preliminary progress.
Take that to the bottom right corner, if you would, on that plan.
Scroll over to the right.
This is A1.
We have a different A11 in our sheet, in our set.
In the set that Rachel sent out,
Yeah, this is a different plan than the one we have in our, let me just make sure. The one I have in my hand is different. Why do I have a different
and
one?
that was just submitted tonight.
No.
If you look at the front stairs, which was shown on the old plan, it leads into apartment 2.
Right, there are no front
There are
stairs.
no front stairs.
There are
There's
no front stairs.
But the plan that was submitted initially
Right, you don't know why.
depicts those stairways.
There was an earlier plan, which for some reason is what's in the package. The plan that's being presented publicly tonight is the plan. There was some revisions, I believe, made during the comments from the town, from the neighbors. There were some revisions. This reflects our most current plan and our most complete plan. I'm not sure why the application wasn't updated.
Yeah,
That's
we-
on me, and my apologies. I thought I had the correct plan.
All right. So we will need we'll need a correct plan set. So, so just, if you don't mind putting the plan back up on the screen that what we were talking about here. and I'm sorry to be dense, but I just wanna know where that second egress is, cause
Sure.
I'm having a hard time.
Let me come
Could be,
around.
it's been a long week, so
I
there's
got,
that.
no,
so-
it's confusing.
Well, yeah, well, that's the other thing that I wanted to, I'll ask that question, don't worry, so I get that. Has to be from a fire code perspective.
Oh, I think you can plug in right now.
No, these don't connect to anything.
Those aren't connected.
High tech.
Government
They
building.
look good.
They look good.
I got a charger for you.
Oh.
Used to be a,
Like a portable battery?
You a Boy Scout?
I was just gonna say, that's preparation.
Be prepared. Be prepared.
I came prepared. I got one merit badge in my entire life. I have a highlighter.
No, it doesn't work. Sorry. No, sorry.
You can unplug me.
Yeah, I can just come closer too.
It's fine. I can unplug.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm already unplugged.
Dee Dee, I think that outlet there is live on the side of the desk.
This one is as well, so.
On the side of the desk is live, Dee Dee, if that helps. Behind the Zoom thing. Is that a live outlet?
Oh, right under here? Yeah.
You're gonna have to freeze it.
Is that an outlet? No, that's not an outlet. That's not an outlet, that's just a bus. That's mine. We had like a technical article we could just put up. With whole music. All right.
I can show you how to use it if you want.
Are you charging now, or?
I am, sir, thank you.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. It's always possible.
No? There we go. And we're back. All right.
Okay, so the first means of egress,
Yep.
there is a walkway that comes around here. This is a canopy. You come in through this. This is your common vestibule with your package storage and mailboxes. Was it something I said?
Sorry.
There we go. Yep.
So here's your first means of egress. This hallway is completely interior to the building, and here's your second means of egress. This is a vestibule, again, for environmental control and security purposes, just like this is an expanded vestibule. This is your second means of egress. Once you're past this door, you are now exterior of the building envelope. You are still under the building footprint.
Got it.
So this isn't a wall, I know it does look like that, but the up sign is indicating that these are actually 2 steps to get down to this grade path.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I was reading that as a building wall, not as a step.
Easy to do,
So,
easy to
thank you
do.
for clarifying that.
Because even sitting up here, it's hard to read up.
Yep, thank you.
So maybe turn that on. So this is like, this is the back.
That's a,
So there's your one entrance,
Yep.
which
and
is,
then like the other one, of course, I don't.
do we have the right side view?
We do have in the 2-dimensional drawings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So if we want to scroll to the exterior elevations,
The elevation set we have is different too.
Is this what you mean by exterior elevation?
yes, so next one. Okay, this is the back, so that's the first
Yep.
means of egress. And it's protected by an overhang to prevent snow from clogging it up. One more, Dee Dee? So the other door is underneath the footprint of the building. So therefore, it's protected from snow blocking the egress. But we're not extending a overhang, canopy, or addition.
Because it's recessed.
Because it's recessed into the footprint of the building.
Understood. All right, thank you for that clarification. Okay. All right. And just from a fire protection system, because we're sort of talking about fire building code issue here, which is beyond our purview, building will be fully sprinkled, correct?
Yes.
Fire.
And the line.
Okay.
I have a quick question. What's this being classified as, a hotel or a townhouse?
So,
These are townhouses.
so public comments closed. This would be a multifamily building.
Be a multifamily. Which would facilitate a commercial grade sprinkler system.
Correct. Right. And an alarm.
And alarm.
Let me see what other questions we had here.
I also, if I may, they had some comments about the public meeting that we had. We did have a public meeting. God bless those people that wanted to come to an unheated construction site in the winter. We did have a petition. There was a few people that did sign a petition. I'd like to enter that. As well as this is their second project in Winthrop. The other was on Cottage Ave. And members of the public, they redid the house that was known for the gentleman that was the Edward Rose Snow, the maritime author. They redid that house, and this is signed by the neighbors of that project in support of this project.
So I will, all right. I will read this into the record just so we have it. Support for the, is it Bucheri? How do you say it? Did I say it right? Bucheri, all right. You never know where to go with the hard or soft C. So Bucheri Builders application to redevelop Holy Rosary, neighbors of 59 Cottage Avenue, Winthrop. We, the undersigned, support the Bucheri's building design of the Holy Rosary Church. It will generally improve the property and make a great use of the now vacant building. We have experienced firsthand the great work that the Bucheri Builders can accomplish with its work rehabbing the property of the famous maritime author Edward Rose Snow at 59 Cottage Avenue, Winthrop. Bucheri Builders took a vacant neighborhood eyesore and created a beautiful home that adds value to our neighborhood. They listened to the neighbors' issues during construction and worked to ensure the work did not cause undue hardships. They are quality builders, and we believe will develop Holy Rosary and work with the neighborhood with the same care that they did with the 59 Cottage community. We urge the Winthrop Zoning Board of Appeals to approve their application for Holy Rosary. Now, this is signed by Brian Ruffino, 67 Cottage Ave, K. O'Dwyer, 52 Cottage Ave, Rebecca Matoy at 55 Cottage Ave, Maria Huang at 58 Cottage Ave, Eric Matoy at 55 Cottage, Ray O'Dwyer, 52 Cottage, looks like Tom Ruffino, 67 Cottage, Cynthia Hastings, 990, oh, there's a different one, sorry. So then there's another one, support for the redevelopment of Holy Rosary Church. We, the undersigned, support Shirley Church LLC's redesign of the Holy Rosary Church. It will generally improve the property and make a great use of the now vacant building. We have reviewed the plans for the redevelopment of the church into a multi-unit building with 5 townhouse condominiums and parking for each unit. We think it would enhance the property and the neighborhood. We urge the Winthrop Zoning Board of Appeals to approve their application for zoning relief. Signed by Cynthia Hastings, 997 Shirley Street, Scott Mahoney Wright, 7 Maryland Avenue, and Josephine, it looks like Fata, 86 Bay Avenue. So I'll submit those both for the record. Thank you. Yeah, of course.
What's the timeline? You get approval. When will it be for sale? I mean, how long is this construction project going on?
This construction is probably a year to 18 months.
And I'm an avid person who's Deer Island every day.
Mhm.
I know that turn.
Yep.
Where are the workers gonna park? I'm just
So
curious
the-
about that.
Park on site.
The workers are gonna park in the lot, on the property, and not on the street.
They're gonna have like a little agreement that says you can't, I mean, there's something that.
Oh, they're not, I'm on site every day.
I know.
When I run a project, so no subcontractor is mine. The only time you might have something parked on the street is when we do that retaining wall and they bring in a machine, and it's only gonna be there probably a couple hours, and then it's gonna be on property. I make it as easy as possible, but the issue with everybody with the parking is like, I understand, I live in Nahat. We have a huge issue of parking, but I'm not the one bringing tankers and trucks and more delivery vehicles to this area. You guys already all get Uber Eats and Grubhub and everything else. So if 5 more people are ordering, I don't see the big, you know, if I was putting 40 units, I would say, yes, everybody, you're gonna have 40 Grubhubs a day. I think you're gonna have higher up, you know, people that have jobs that probably cook at home and a nice kitchen and something like that, and I mean, they can order out all they want. But I'm not making Amazon make special trips there where you're saying there's gonna be so many more Amazon trucks. The Amazon truck's already coming to Point Shirley. And the MWRA is the MWRA. We can't make trucks stop coming, but I, on a building site, am never gonna have my subs park on the street because there's no parking on the street anyway. And also, when you guys had a church, the church had services, and services brought in 200-300 cars that I spoke to. The church, okay, 100 cars, but
All right, no back and forth between members of the public and the applicant.
when the
Public
church
comments
was
closed.
open, it had services, and people went to services. I don't think you all walked to church. And you have Point Shirley Association, which I have met you, and you're very nice. They have parties, and they have 30 cars, 20 cars. They have a function hall that fits, and everybody works around it. I don't think this is a mass where you're having, someone's gonna have 60 people over every day. So where the parking's such an issue, I can't alleviate more deliveries and stuff, because people are gonna order stuff, and
But-
just like your neighbors.
I got you. But if someone who goes there every day,
Yeah.
you know, I can imagine 7 F-150s just coming every day. They're gonna be parking in this spot over here. They're not gonna be anywhere.
Nope, they're gonna be in the
I'm just
driveway,
trying to understand.
Yep.
in the dirt until we pave it.
Okay.
It'll be ready to park before we start construction, because the first phase is gonna be the wall. So once the wall is done, the parking lot will pretty much be at the grade at where it's gonna be, and you could probably fit 15 trucks in there. You know, not in the proper 9 by 19 parking, but we'll get them all in there and that they're not on the street. And if we do drive on the street, we'll clean the street like we do on every project that we have. We're mindful of the neighbors, we'll keep the neighborhood clean during construction, we'll work in the hours that we're allowed to work, permitted by the building department, and there won't be anybody in there on Sundays, there won't be anybody there at 5 o'clock at night.
If there are additional documents presented to us, could we have something that says what you just said? This idea of where your folks are gonna be parking during construction?
Well, we can, I mean, as a board, if we were to grant the relief requested, we can include that as a condition.
I'd like
If they violate that condition, that
I
creates.
I disagree, Darren. These are public streets. How can we control what happens on a public street?
We can.
A contractor pulls up and pulls in and parks on the street. How can we control that? It's a public street.
I disagree. From a construction perspective, we can say that construction vehicles have to park on the site as a matter of granting the variance, as a matter of public safety. We can do that.
I think that's a slippery slope.
Okay, well then we can, when we.
I respect the applicant's position and effort to make that as good as possible condition, but there are 30 authorities that have jurisdiction: police, DPW, the building inspector. If people are violating those conditions, if they're blocking traffic, those authorities are supposed to do something about that. for us to condition something like that, to me, is a slippery slope that I think is a mistake.
Well then, yeah, and if we get to the point where we're issuing a decision on this, we can decide whether that condition gets included, because that's part of a motion that would get offered, right? So I think, we can disagree on that, but I don't think anyone's making a motion at this moment. But I duly noted, Tom.
We should be discussing it, right? We are discussing it.
Yeah, I for one think that from a public safety, health and welfare perspective, if we're asked to grant a variance, and we're gonna grant a variance to allow for construction for something that's a use variance, if we wanna take something off the table from a public safety perspective by requiring construction parking to be on the site, I think that's within our purview. Now, is it difficult to enforce? Sure, but it gives us a hammer if they're not doing it, and the police and other people refuse to enforce it. Right? That's within our purview. Like, we get to balance health, safety, and welfare.
How do you justify a vehicle parking in a legal public parking street, on a public street, as a safety issue? How is that any different? How is the electrician who's driving an F-150 any different than the neighbor that's driving an F-150 and parks on that street? How do you justify that as a health issue?
Well, I can justify it as a safety issue if it's displacing other parking. And we can disagree about public parking, that's fine. And you may not agree with the condition, and if someone offers it with the condition, we could talk about it. I'm fine with that sort of condition in this instance. That's me.
You keep saying we can talk about it. I thought that's what we were doing.
Okay, we're talking about it. I'm fine with that condition, and you're not. So, okay.
If you wanna when we go forward, Tom, if you make that motion, happens all the time, which one?
I think that's within our purview.
I think it's healthy for us to have
I do too.
the conversation.
I do too, and I think it's within our purview. And I hear you about the public parking aspect of it. But I think to the extent that as part of the board's decision, if we want to eliminate that conflict, we can. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So if Dee Dee, if you could put up the screen C, I had it. C2, the parking plan?
Right here, sir?
That's the one. So the northern part, the top side, the only length that I can see is 18 feet 8 inches, or 18.8 feet actually is what it looks like.
That's the width.
That's the width of that.
It's
of that
95 feet,
driveway.
95 feet long.
Correct. So, and you have the dumpster back there, correct?
Correct.
But my concern is that the gas meter is also there and there are
Gas
two
meters getting
pylons.
relocated into the front of the building.
Okay, so those pylons will be gone?
Yep, the gas meter's already taken.
Okay.
Gas company took the gas meter out. They have to upgrade the size of the service feed into the building. So we're gonna put that in the front with some shielding. And the electrical is gonna go underground as well. There'll be no overhead.
Can I ask a geometry question about this? That spot with the 3 in it, I'm pretty good at parallel parking. My kids go to school in the north end. How am I getting in and out of that spot?
You can drive onto that pervious.
Can I drive onto the pervious?
Yes.
Okay.
Same level as the driveway.
But Darren, I had the same question, and I would suggest that we don't see the fenced-in dumpster area here. So you're saying you could drive onto it, but there's going to be dumpsters there.
Right. That's.
And I'd also like to point out that you're saying that you don't need any parking variance. Well, that's for the number of spaces, but
2 feet.
our parking regulation has a table for aisle widths, and parallel spaces are supposed to have a 12-foot aisle width, and 90 degree you're supposed to have 24, which you certainly don't have on the first two and the last two on the south side.
Yeah.
And now we haven't even discussed screening. You're supposed to have a landscape buffer for these spaces, and there's no landscape buffer.
Right. I do have some concerns about the parking layout for those reasons, and I don't actually think you could get in and out of 3 unless your wheels can actually pivot in the wheel wells 90 degrees and allow you to go sideways.
Rick, do you want to take on these parking questions and site
and-
circulation?
well, yeah, and we could take a harder look at that and show you a diagram how it works, and there's also room to slide those spaces forward closer to the front anyway, so.
I think
that
I
can
think
be
you would
addressed.
I think you would have to move them closer to the front. I don't think, I mean, I think that on Tom's point about the drive aisle width is a good one. I think that, you know, that is one where, I think you guys would have to update you guys are gonna have to take a hard look at the parking requirements and layout requirements for off-street parking, because I think there are a couple other variances that you need that you haven't captured. The buffer, the 2-foot buffer for any parking or driveway at the lot line, I mean, that's a thick black line, but that's not 2 feet of thickness there.
No, it's not.
So, and it needs to be a buffer strip that's green. So I think one of the things that I would want to see is a revised parking plan that's either compliant or spelling out the variances that are needed, because I think there are a couple that you guys need. And I think you'd have to pull those spaces forward to be able to get in and out of 3. I just don't see how
I
that's.
think to get in and out of any of them, I think the parallel parking's gonna be difficult to have any sort of a angle going into a space with other cars there. I had pulled in just to see the width of it, and I questioned whether or not a car could even get by a parked car there. So I think if you're trying to fit a car either in spot 3 or spot 2, I think it would be rather delicate not to hit the building.
Mini Cooper maybe.
And, well, the problem with that is if the spaces are not usable, are they really
Be on the streets,
spaces? Are they just gonna go to the streets? And
I agree.
I think we have a few people that don't want that.
Just a couple. So I do think that that's we need you to take a hard look at the parking plan, because I think that these in particular are not sure really workable parking spaces, the way they're arranged. I mean, if they're tandem spaces, even that wouldn't be great, but, I mean, I don't think they're really parallel parking spaces.
Mr. Chair, I also have some concerns about the rear of the building. This is residential A, so there is no multifamily zoning within A. However, I think if we look at the multifamily zoning in residential B, we have a 40-foot rear setback. If we look at a 2-family zone in residential A, we have a 20-foot rear setback. I have a 17.7 feet setback, it looks to me, for that northern area of the building. I would assume a variance would be needed for that portion also.
Pre-existing non-conforming, so that's where the special permit.
Where you're dormering out the top, would that create
So
a need?
the vertical extension of that nonconformity requires a variance.
That's
You
my
can't-
understanding.
It's one thing to change a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but to increase a non-conformity requires an additional variance.
That's my
how
understanding.
that's how this board has always operated. I think that's actually correct under 40A as well, because you're creating a new dimensional non-conformity in a vertical space.
Could we or somebody speak to the, what was brought up earlier regarding the notification, just from a procedural standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, so we should, in our notices, reference the relief requested. That is a better way to do it, special permit or variance. Reality is, we said a permit, it said what was being discussed. I don't think there's any shortage of notice to the public. I don't think that it prejudiced anybody in any way, except for, maybe, the gentleman who wrote the brief who understood it was only for a special permit. But certainly from the standpoint of the public hearing, I don't think it's a defect from a public hearing perspective, because clearly the public is here. That said, I don't think, based on some of the things we're talking about, we're going to be making a decision on this evening. That's just my gut, unless somebody surprises me. I think we're probably gonna continue this. And I would say that the continuance of this matter, to the extent someone said they were prejudiced by the defect in the notice, the fact that we will have a subsequent hearing, and now that people know it's about a variance and a special permit, that would take care of any technical defect. And so I was not the slightest bit apprehensive about opening this matter tonight based on the public notice. But it is cautionary. We should start specifying in our notices what the nature of the relief is, whether it's a variance, special permit, or both.
And I would just add that, speaking obviously for myself, I think it would be a nice addition to the neighborhood. I think it's very well done. I think it fits nicely within the footprint of the existing structure. I understand why we're asking for 5 units. I mean, there's 1,600, 1,800 square feet. To me, that's more than adequate. Doesn't encourage transient use. The 2 bedrooms, parking's adequate. I was asking around the notice just for that reason. I think, assuming they come back, and I'm pretty sure that they will, that just to make sure we're all buttoned up from a variance perspective, procedural perspective, that would be adequate to do. But I think overall, remaining within the footprint, beautiful structure. Everything that I've heard has been addressed, water runoff, et cetera, so.
I mean, for me, there's something to be said about preservation of the structure.
Yep, that as well.
And adaptive reuse and what's appropriate from the standpoint of keeping that structure. I mean, this is a unique lot, this is a unique building on this lot, so I think from that perspective, we're not a board of precedent anyway, so to the extent people are worried about us opening Pandora's box by making a decision a certain way, every case is a new case. We are not bound by anything we do in any other case. And so, and where something's unique like this, it's something that I myself as chair, and I've been on this board a long time, we do not stand on precedent. So for whether that makes you feel better or not, I don't know. But I think that where we are, do we have other questions from the board? I think where we are right now is we need an updated site plan, a table of an updated table based on the updated site plan that shows, because we need a plan that actually is the same as the one you guys had on the screen for the record. So we need that updated. We also need the parking stuff really dug into. We want to understand whether those really work or not. If they don't, then the relief that you need, if you think they do, with some reconfiguration, the relief you need to make them work and have them be compliant, or if they're not compliant, the variances that you need to make them at least legal. So I think that's some work that needs to be done here. Is there anything else from members of the board where they have specific questions? Tom, I'm not sure if you have anything?
Just the access to the basement, you said it wasn't going to be habitable. Is there any access to the basement from within the individual units?
No.
Have to go outside to get in.
Okay. I would just say I agree with what Jason said, that I love the architecture of this building and what you've done with it. I do agree the 5 units seem to fit nicely in this. I think anything bigger, we're getting into 3 and 4 bedrooms. My only concern really, unfortunately, is the site. I think the site might not be able to handle the amount of parking that you are required to have. But it would be nice to get a full submission package from what you're presenting tonight instead of this older set that we have.
And I would just,
That's all.
yeah, and I would just add, if we're so inclined, seeing other developments done, wearing my other hat, my professional capacity, if the board chose, we could request a traffic management plan or a construction management plan that dictates, where construction vehicles may or may not, or should park. And then, obvious enforcement of that would be left to the appropriate, but let's get that first.
Yeah, I think understanding, we got a good amount of testimony tonight about how you guys manage construction vehicles generally and where you require them to park. I think submitting that, in writing would be helpful, just for the record. I don't think we can necessarily require a construction management plan, but I wish we could. CMPs are always helpful, but then that's usually a DPW type of matter, and I don't want to get into Steve's world if I can help it. Not that Steve that I talked to earlier that said something, a different Steve. So.
No, I would agree though, that construction plan I'd be more interested in that, or more inclined to accept something like that than a sort of arbitrary no parking on the street for certain people.
Yeah, I mean, we could, if there's a construction sort of management plan that gets submitted as part of the record, then that can be something that we could that basically gets us to the same place.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to speak, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
No, sir. No, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman, would this be something we would have at our next meeting or special meeting?
Next meeting. I think, how does our next meeting agenda look? Well, given the amount of work, the plans and other things, I think realistically, I don't wanna put a special meeting in February. We've got school vacation week, we got other stuff. I think the 22nd is, is 22nd school vacation week, or do we move around that?
It's the
Around that.
4th.
yeah, I think it's
week.
19 to 24,
Yeah.
or is that April?
It is.
No, that's, yeah, February.
That is school vacation week.
We moved that February meeting.
It was moved, but it's on February
22nd.
22nd now.
Fourth Thursday. I just did the 4th Thursday like usual.
Okay, all right, well, we'll figure that out.
Mr. Chair, I just want to reiterate too, I'm less concerned about the construction portion. I mean, a lot of that will take care of itself with, to the extent it can. Large trucks drop off large things, they're going to be parked out in front. There's no way an 18-wheeler's pulling into that driveway to drop off the cabinets. It's just a fact of construction. I'm much more concerned about post-construction with people living there. I don't know if we have the ability to stop or to condition this project on only off-street parking, not having parking stickers.
We can't, we've talked about that a lot in the past, and that's just a no-fly zone for the town. We can't, from an enforcement perspective, that's impossible to deal with. So we don't say you can't get visitor passes.
No, not visitor parkers, but off-street parking passes
Yeah, we
for the
don't-
residents themselves.
We don't do that. Yeah, we really can't do that because they'll go get them anyway and we'll never know it. And from an enforcement perspective, it's just not something that we have historically done.
My next question is, are these going to be deeded spots with the units? Are they going to be rented to the individual units? Are they going to be open parking?
That's probably gonna be up to whoever buys the condos and forms a homeowners association.
Typically.
One of my concerns is, we have a lot of buildings that go up, it seems, that the parking is on a separate line than the units themselves. So the parking spots can be rented. One unit owner could rent, for example, 4 or 5 spots, and then we have, everyone else are on the streets.
Yeah, we would probably deed 2 to each unit, and then if you live in unit A and B only has 1 car and he says you wanna rent it for me, that's between you guys.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
much
would
different than
deed
what I'm
2
talking
to
about.
each unit, yeah.
And we would encourage
Well,
condo
wouldn't that be required under zoning, that each unit be deeded 2 spaces, because they're required to have 2 spaces?
Yeah, so it would go in like the condo doc.
That
it would
was
go in the
a
condo
question
docs.
for the chair.
Oh.
So you get into, so it's required that you have a certain number of parking spaces based on the number of units. We don't typically condition things based on, oh, you have to have, you have to deed 2 units, you have to there always has to be 2 spaces available per unit, no matter what, to be compliant with zoning. Whether they deed them or lease them is up to them. But yes, there always have to be 2 spaces available for a unit. So, yeah, we would say that, we make it very clear that these can't, we've had issues where condo owners, somebody owns a condo and doesn't have any cars and leases them to an off-site neighbor, which is not allowed, because it's turning it into a commercial parking lot, so.
Edie, can you scroll down?
Yes.
This just may be a difference with what we were provided versus where we're at here. So this spot here, this is an entryway into that back area, correct?
Yes.
And that's this spot here. And Mr. Salvo, you might be able to answer this. This car here can easily get in and out of this spot here and still turn around?
Yes.
They can go up on those pavers if they had to, right?
And what's the height of this wall?
At that point, I'm not sure what the exact is.
It
Staggers up.
It goes up
Staggers up as you go. It's lower in the front and goes up to pick up that slope that's along the back of all our neighbors up on Hale Street.
Now, in the back here, there's a house, it appears, up on top of this hill.
Yep.
what's being done to make sure that that house is being shored up, and we don't want a scenario where you're digging back into that hill and all of a sudden, that house is compromised.
We're gonna be off the property line with the wall because of the backfill issue and the geogrid that goes in, so we're not even gonna be into the hill doing any excavation. Excavation is all in front of the hill, and then we'll backfill behind the wall. There's only gonna be 12 feet between the building and the face of the wall. You have 17.7 at the narrowest point, and then, can you scroll down a little? That goes
I think
up.
it's fair to say in your revised plans, we'd like to see elevations of that wall.
Sure.
The heights of those, of the wall as it steps.
That would be.
Yeah, we have an engineered plan for that.
And to confirm that hillside protection is not something that needs to be dealt with here, because it seems to me that you're going into that hill a bit. Maybe you're not, but I think just to clarify, the engineer could certify whether hillside protection is
We
necessary
have
or
an
not.
engineered plan for that. We'll submit it.
So, any other questions or things we want for our next meeting on the 22nd of February? Because it sounds like that's where we're going with this. Does the applicant feel like they have the list of what it is we're looking for? Or would you like us to go through it again?
If you could just go,
Okay.
just to make sure, I like to have a good checklist.
All right, so, and members of the board, jump in if I miss something here, but we need, we want to see the elevations of that wall, as it, both at the street and sort of along the run of it, so we understand how it works within the site. Any engineered drawings that we have as to whether or not that's, retaining earth from above, in the hillside. The updated set of plans that reflect what was up on the screen tonight, as opposed to the slightly older set that we have in our file. And then, an updated you guys go back and look at the parking and determine whether or not, that parking needs to be reconfigured to work, what actually works from a turning radius perspective, and whether you need any relief from a parking configuration for aisle widths or anything else there to make that parking workable for 10 spaces. And if 10 spaces aren't really feasible there, whether you need relief from the off-street parking requirements. And I think the last thing we'd like to see, or at least I'd like to see, is a table that sets forth all of the relief that you think is needed once you've looked back at the parking. So setbacks, we know the special permit is only relative to pre-existing non-conforming. We know you requested a use variance, but any dimensional variances that are required from a setback perspective or otherwise. And I think that is the universe, right?
And Mr. Chair, before you stack another meeting on for February 22nd, that is school vacation week, so you may have difficulty holding a quorum.
I'll be having to check in from Mount
Montreal.
Tremblant in Montreal, but I can do that. You have to go there to find snow these days. I mean, it's.
Understood. Would it make sense for us to push it off to the following week, to the 29th, opposed to the 22nd?
Or we can do it the week before.
These aren't, yeah, I mean,
If we think the plans could be together the week before, we could do
this isn't a short meeting, I think.
We could do it.
Is everyone around the 15th, February 15th? Tom, does that work for you? Feb 15 for a special meeting, because 22nd is school vacation week.
Special meeting, or we're moving the already?
No, we're gonna move this to that, and then we'll deal with the 22nd on the fly. I mean, I don't mind calling in if I have to, but.
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
Salva, do you have time for the updated plans if it was a week earlier?
15th, is that, you guys have enough time to turn that around? Yep. All right. So I'll take a motion from a sitting member on this to continue this matter for updated plans to Thursday, February 15th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Will we be here, or we'll have to find out if this room's available?
No, the room's open
All right.
as
and
of
this-
right now.
You're in the Harvey hearing room. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second? Second. As moved and seconded, all those in favor of continuance to February 15th at 6:30 PM? Aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll see you then.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.